Hey there. Hello. How do you do? My name is Harry Wetzel. Thanks for coming. It's the 80s, darling. It is February the 3rd, 1984. We just had a fantastic party last night with Margie and Gregory and Michael and me. Now it's the next day. Who's hungover? Not me. No, but the medical students seem to have dissected my body into component parts and then hilariously lost all the pieces. But no, I'm not hungover. I've just been diced to bits and scattered around Manhattan. But no, not hungover at all. When I wake up, it's around 10:30. And I know that Gregory's been at the shop since around 10 o'clock, and I know he feels just as bad as I do. So I got to get myself together. I get cleaned up, and I get on the bus, and I get over to the Upper East Side. Eventually, I get out and I'm walking down 3rd Avenue. And I pass the Kang Deli. Yes. And I decide I'm going to go in and see the luminously beautiful Kang herself and get a cup of coffee because I could use one. So I go in there, and I usually get black coffee, but this time I'm going to order it with milk because I suppose I could use the food value of the milk in my stomach. Right. So I go in and I order my coffee, milk, no sugar. And she says, you look a little tired today. And I said, I feel a little tired. We had a late night last night, I said. She said, well, have a good day. I say, thank you. I hope so. So off I go, and I'm walking down the street, and I feel physically horrible, but I feel pretty good because I'm remembering that we've got this transmogrification of Margie from that scary lady Margie to our favorite girl Margie, and it's fantastic. So I walk into the booze store, and as I'm walking down towards the booze store, I pass the salty dog, and a little bell goes off in my head. That's right, we were here last night. That's right, we were dancing, and becomes seeping back into my head. And Margie and I was dancing with Margie. Yes. Oh, and I fell flat on my back. Oh, wow. What a great time. So now I walk on into the booze store, and as I get in there, Africa by Toto is playing. Anthemically beautiful. Gregory's standing behind the counter, so is Francine. Gregory looks pretty miserable. And so I'm all chipper when I go in. I say, well, how we all doing this morning? And Gregory says, pretty bad. I say, oh, yeah? He says, yeah. Margie's dead. Everything stops. I say, no. But I'm looking right into his eyes, and he's burning straight into mine. I know this is no joke. I say, what happened? This is awful. She was just here. He says, she was just here. I say, we were all just here. We were all just here. We were all together. What happened? He said, well, apparently there was a fire. I say, oh, no. He says, hold on. He says, Margie and Michael fell asleep, and Michael had a cigarette. And it started the bed mattress to start smoldering. And they woke up in time. And so Michael went into the bathroom and got some water and poured it on the mattress. And then the room really started to fill up with smoke. So Margie said, you get the kids, get them down to the neighbors. and then you call 911. I'll deal with the smoke," said Margie. So she shut the bedroom door, and she apparently went over and opened the window. And when she was opening the window, she must have slipped or tripped or something, because she fell. She fell. She fell right through the window, went right through the screen. They live on the 9th floor. Margie didn't survive. We're just silent as Africa echoes through the store. I said, "Well, jeepers, how's Michael?" He says, "How do you think he is? He called me this morning, early. He'll be in later. He and Steve are driving around taking care of essential things." I said, "Well, what do we do?" He says, "There's nothing we can do. Go to work." So there is a dozen or so cases, 2 dozen cases of booze bottles. There was booze cases. There was a huge lumber order. There was a huge liquor order that morning before I even got into the store. And so there's these couple of dozen cases, and I've got to put those back down in the wine cellar. I've got to parcel some out to the racks in the showroom and make some displays with my X-Acto knife out of the case boxes. So I've got a lot of work ahead of me, and in comes a little old lady looking for some sweet Hungarian Tokay. And then it's just another day at work. So I've got all these bottles, I've got all these boxes. I take some down to the wine cellar. I'm putting some of the others in the display in the racks. Takes a couple of hours, and I'm very busy all morning. We got customers coming and going. And now I'm down in the basement. I've gotten all the cases down into the basement, and I'm setting it up in a nice order again. And Gregory calls down. He says, "Michael's here." I say, "Well, what do I do?" He says, "Well, come on up and let him know he's got some friends." So I go up, and Michael's back in the office. He's sitting in the office chair. He's got his sunglasses on. He and Steve have been driving around taking care of errands. So we sort of commiserate. We're hanging around him. We're saying, "It's so terrible. It's so sad. It's so miserable. She was so wonderful. We're so sorry. We just don't know what to say. There's nothing we can say." And we all just sort of vibrate together for a while. We're all silent. Eventually, Michael speaks. He says, "Margie and I were pretty drunk when we got home, but I had a cigarette, got into bed, and fell asleep with the cigarette. And I woke up in time. The room was filling up with smoke. So Margie and I were both awake, and I went and got some water, and I came in and poured it on the mattress. And then the room really started to fill up with smoke. So Margie said, you get the kids down to the neighbors and you call 911. I'll deal with the smoke," she said. So she shut the bedroom door, and I got the kids over to the neighbor's apartment, and I came back and I was calling 911. And I'm looking out the window, and I see in the courtyard, "Is that Margie? What's Margie doing down there? What's Margie doing in the courtyard? Is that Margie? Is that her? Is that Margie?" And I scream, "No!" And I run down all 9 flights of stairs. I didn't even put my shoes on. I run out of the courtyard. She's there. Margie's laying down in the courtyard. And she's there. Margie's there. Margie's there. And we all just silent for a while. They got to get going. Steve and Michael got to get going. They got more stuff to do. So I walk him out to the car. He says, she liked you, Harry. She said that little white boy is okay. I said, Michael, I really liked her. I found out just how wonderful and amazing she is. I really liked her. So he and Steve got in the car and they took off. And then it was just another regular day at work. There was a lot of deliveries that night. It was Friday. And so at the end of the night, I had already made plans a couple days earlier. I was going to get together with a Detroiter friend of mine, Ron Turek, who lives right over here in the neighborhood at 86th and 1st. And we were going to get together Friday night after work. And so at about 10 o'clock, it's closing, and I was going to get over there. So we close up, and I go on over to Ron's place. And Ron always has great reefer. He's got a good connection. So we get together, and we smoke a joint. And he puts on some Gershwin, and we're listening to Rhapsody in Blue because it's so New Yorky. And we're a couple of Midwesterners, a couple of Detroiters talking about living in New York together and how exciting it is. And I tell him what happened to me in the last 24 hours. He said, oh. I said, yeah, I told him the whole story. And as I'm telling him the story, I realize the party we had last night, we didn't realize it at the time, but it was a farewell party. And I was dancing with Margie. It occurred to me that I was dancing her last dance. I danced Margie's last dance. That was with me. The sweet dreams are made of this. Anyhow, we smoke another joint, and by then it's pretty late, and I'm pretty tired. So I got to get going. So I'm walking back to the bus stop. I'm walking on 86th Street there, and as I'm walking, I'm realizing that this, in a way, was a brush with death that I had. In a way. And I feel the abyss yawning up behind me, the abyss of mortality following me like the Grand Canyon and a tidal wave at the same time. And I'm walking on 86th Street, and I get to the next corner, and I look back at this wave, this abyss following me, and I see there's a guy back there about halfway down the block. I don't like it, but you take notice of your surroundings in New York, and you just keep on going. I pick up the pace, and I keep on walking. So I'm up at the next block, and I turn around, and he's right near me. Now he's catching up to me, and I do not like this at all. So I pick up my pace, and we're walking, and I turn around, and he and I meet eyes, and he starts to move towards me. And I jump up in the air, meow, and I land on my feet, and he goes, blah, 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 and he stumbles back, and he almost falls on his ass. And we're staring at each other, and I'm stanced, and he's staring at me, and he's stanced, and I'm like, you scared the shit out of me. And he said, you scared the shit out of me. I said, I thought you were going to jump me. He says, I thought you were going to jump me. I say, my name's Harry. He says, my name's Larry. And we both remark how we've been both meeting a lot of rhyming people lately. Anyhow, I say, you got to understand, I was at a farewell party last night, and we didn't even realize it was a farewell party, and she was such a terrifying person in the first place, but then she turned out to be so wonderful. I had no idea I was dancing her last dance with her, and this was a farewell party, and that the abyss is yawning up behind me, and yawning up behind you, and yawning up behind every one of us on this island. Jerry didn't seem to know what to make of me, and by now we're in front of the bus stop, the Blarney Stone, and he says, wow. He says, good luck. He turns around and walks away. I look into the bus stop. I don't want to drink. I don't even want to wait for the bus. I just had the shit scared out of me. I want to take the next taxi cab home. And so one comes along, not too long. I get in the cab. I say, 94th and Broadway. And as we're driving in this taxi cab, I feel the abyss yawning up behind the taxi cab, just inches behind its back wheels. I make a point not to turn around. All right. Like and share and subscribe and comment. And thank you for coming with me on this journey. I look forward to seeing you next time.